A quote that I love is by Marcus Aurelius, and he says, "Be content with what you are, and wish not change, nor dread your last day, nor long for it." A show that I absolutely love is HBO does a show called Hard Knocks, and it follows one professional football team in the NFL each year, and it basically shows them through preseason and goes down to cut day. Now, while this is always interesting, they take the angle of following some of the young rookies on the team, or maybe even some free agents, some veterans who came in to help the team. But the thing is, no one's position is ever secure. You never know. It's a business. At the end of the day, they're trying to win football games, and it's a business. And because of that, you follow the story of a few young rookies who are trying desperately to make the team. And it's usually not like the first or second round picks. It's usually those ones who they pick late, who to see if they got a shot at making the team. There's one part where cut day is coming. And no matter who you are, unless you're like the superstar player where you know you're not getting a phone call, all the rest of the players dread it. Absolutely dread it. Because they'll come in the building and there's either a sign or a mark or something on your locker if the coaches don't see you, or some people try to stay out of the building and try to avoid all the coaches, because the one thing they don't want to get is one of the assistant coaches or somebody's like, "Hey, coach wants to see you," because they know that is the death bell. That is the sign of death. And coach usually will call you to his room and tell you how great you are, but we don't want you. You're not a fit for here, and we wish you all the luck in the world, and we hope you catch on somewhere else, but it ain't gonna be here. Today's talk is about the feeling of dread. Hello, Governor. This is Rakai Steed, Noob from the Ville, and we're covering End of Time Part 1, Episode 17, Season 4 of Doctor Who. The Doctor, now companionless, at the end of the last episode was visited by a Ood after we knew he had gone too far. So he goes to the Ood's home planet. But in going to the Ood's home planet, they've only been free for a few years. But when he looks at all that they've done and all they've succeeded in a few years, it's almost, to the Oods, it had been 100 years. And the Doctor realized someone is manipulating time. This is not right. He learns very quickly from the Oods soothsayer, whatever, visionist, that the Master did not die. So the Doctor picks up, runs back to Earth, runs back to, figure out what the hell's going on. When he gets there, he's actually too late. And the Master has been resurrected from the ring and the life force essence or something of his ex-wife. Because, whatever, he had his stank on her. I don't know. But the ex-wife try to tell him, "You don't know what you're doing. We cannot resurrect him." So she had a plan in place. She had one of the people who was tasked with keeping her captive. She had them on her side. And they blew up the building to stop these people from resurrecting the Master. Problem is, they were too late. And when the Doctor got there the next day, he found that the building had been blown up, but he can sense the Master's presence. And he went chasing after the Master, and he knew what was going down. So meanwhile, Wilfred, who is played wonderfully by Bernard Cribbins, he starts to have visions of the Master. Now, he's the only person. He's starting to have visions of the master. Remember that whole year that they lost at the end of season 3? He started to have visions of the master. And he knew to fix this problem, he needed a doctor, but no one knew what the doctor was. So Wilfred hired the AARP squad, and they went to task, and they called up all the old people that they knew to find a doctor. And lo and behold, they found a doctor in like 2 days. They're better than the Secret Service. So they found the doctor, and the doctor is hot on the trails. He just kind of happened to run into them. He's hot on the trails of the master. The master eludes him a couple times. They get into it. They eventually get taken hostage by some people, and it turns out to be I forget the guy's name, but he's played by David Harewood. David Harewood was in the Arrowverse, CW, like DC Comics, and he played Martian Manhunter. He's been in several other things. He was just recently in The Acolyte as a senator. But he is a billionaire, and him and his daughter have went out of their way to make sure to resurrect the master. They don't realize, though, that the master is not trying to be under nobody's agenda. He don't care. The dude's a billionaire. He's got his own thing going on, and people don't quite, I don't know if they don't know what they're getting into with the master, but it clearly seems like they don't have a real clue. But the master fixes their machine, but of course, he did a backdoor into their machine where he programmed it so that it targeted all humans, because the machine is supposed to fix whatever's wrong with you on a cellular, molecular level. But the master programmed the machine to fix all humans. And towards the end of the episode, we see what he's done with the machine. He went all Matrix, was it Revolutions? Matrix something, whatever, the Matrix Part 3, the one that was terrible. Well, actually 3 and 4 were terrible. But where Agent Smith had turned everyone pretty much in the Matrix into him. That's what the master did. He turned everyone on Earth, all the humans, into him. And it seemed like the only people that did not turn into him are Wilfred and Donna. Everybody else was him. And that'll mean something when I start talking about episode 2. Dread is a human emotion that is hard to get past. You know, we're very familiar with the feelings of happiness and joy. We're very familiar with sadness and want. But dread is somewhere in the middle. A lot of times when you dread something, you are foreshadowing an outcome. And many times you don't know if it's going to be good or bad, positive or negative. But dread usually comes in a form of that you believe that an outcome is going to be negative. So therefore, you would rather not deal with it. When I was talking about the guys on Hard Knocks, none of the new players were looking forward to cut day. Even if you had been playing your ass off, you had done everything the coaches asked for you, you've been performing to the peak of your ability, no one looked forward to cut day. None of those young players went into cut day knowing that they were going to make the team. They hoped they were going to make the team. They prayed they were going to make the team, but they dreaded cut day. The doctor dreaded the master. Because even though the master and him seemed to be cut from the same cloth, they weren't. You know, everywhere the doctor went was death and destruction. He was his own tsunami. But he went out of his way to save people, to help people. Even if the way that he did it was messy. The master was pure chaos. And he didn't care who he hurt. And that really hurt the doctor's feelings, because he said something in one of the episodes about the master could just be beautiful if he thought like the doctor thought. But most people don't think like you think. It's hard to avoid dread when you feel something negative is coming your way. It might be responsibility. It might be change. A lot of people have a hard time changing are dealing with change coming. If you have devoted your life to football, and it looks like that is coming to an end, you dread it. I've asked my oldest son, what does he want to do with his life? His only answer was football. As of right now, he has no backup plan. And while on one end, I applaud that. If you're going to go hard at doing something, put 100% of yourself into it. Go all in. I figure if he goes to college on a football scholarship, well, they don't let you major in football. So he's going to have to find something to major in, and that will naturally be his fallback. Give 100% of your something if you choose to succeed at it. But at the same time, when you know that may be coming to an end, what do you do with yourself? Who are you? Some people can't see themselves outside of the decisions that they made. My son is not defined as a football player, but only he has to know that. And if you don't know that about yourself, it's easy for me to tell you, don't dread the future. Don't dread change, but that doesn't make it easy to do. I'll leave you with this. If you give yourself over to something, whatever your goals, whatever your ambitions are, and you put 100% of yourself into it. And I hate when people say you're giving 110% and you're giving 150% maximum effort. Are you really? Because if you got 150%, then you was never giving your full at first. A lot of people think their 100% is actually like 80 or 90%. All you have to give is 100% of yourself. That's it. All of you. A lot of times we think we're getting by with it's good enough. 80, 90% is good enough. It looks like other people's 100, and maybe it does. If you give 100% of yourself to something, know that any day it can come to an end. Best thing you can do is prepare. One of my favorite podcasts is The Pivot. 3 former NFL players who have taken to a life of doing podcasting and talking with some of their favorite people about some of their favorite topics. And it's not all football players. They talk to a wide assortment of people, but they interview very well. They ask excellent questions, and it's not your typical podcast. You have to be able to pivot. That's all I can leave you with. Be prepared to pivot in your life. Don't dread what is coming. Look forward to the opportunity to do something else. William Fillmore Sims says that the dread of criticism is the death of genius. You're going to be criticized in everything that you do. All good things must come to an end. So if you dread criticism, you dread negativity, you dread change, the genius is that you are still alive and breathing, and you get to remake yourself anew. Take advantage of that opportunity. Take hold of it. Reinvent yourself. Pivot. This is Rakai Steed, Nuke from the Ville. I want you to make sure that you like, comment, share, and by all means subscribe. We are on a quest for 1,000 subscribers. And not only do we need 1,000 subscribers, but I need the viewing hours too. So if you're not doing anything, drop a playlist in, drop the side quest playlist, or put this on in the background. You may hear a word, you may hear something that you didn't hear. I talk about more than Doctor Who, absolutely. A lot of topics I talk about with Centel and movies, series. You might hear something that benefits you. You may not. But either way it goes, I appreciate you. You gotta use this. But you gotta use this.